You turned around. What are you going to do? Spank me?
Oh my God.
That was a quote from the third most epic film ever made, Me Too, by John Woo.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Awful Takes podcast. Today is episode 36. Yeah, 36. Quick apology for the hiatus over the past couple weeks. My full-time job sometimes kind of bleeds into what is normally our recording time. So for the past 2 weeks, it was a little hectic to kind of get a schedule in. But we're back, and we're going to be playing some catch-up over the next couple of weeks. We got a lot of movies and things we want to talk about. So just keep your ears and eyes open for when those start to drop. Thank you for joining us. This is the show where we make movie recommendations to each other, and we review them, and we talk about them.
Who are you?
My name is Nabahi.
Hello, I'm Wallied from Sir Gator Productions.
And we are going to play a little catch-up with some movie news that we found a little interesting. If you're joining us just for the review today, we'll have timestamps in the description, so feel free to jump ahead if you don't want to hear our perspective. That's the format of this show, is we kind of start out with, things we find interesting in movie news. Walid, you told me about something right before recording, and I was kind of doubting whether or not it was real, but we've looked it up, and I guess it actually is going to be happening. What were we talking about?
Yeah, so obviously Tarantino's been on and off with what the next project will be from him, and so we got some confirmation recently that Tarantino is actually going to be writing the sequel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. However, he's not going to be directing it. David Fincher is actually set to direct it, and it's going to be dumped to Netflix and everything like that. So that is quite a pairing, actually. Granted, I'm not the biggest David Fincher guy. I do like some of his movies. I would say The Game is my favorite of his so far. But I don't know. I don't know if Fincher's style could work with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because granted, it's a little bit more of like a comedic drama type of film, and it's a lot more of like a love letter, whereas Fincher's stuff tends to be leaning more to like the serious, grounded side and everything. So I guess, I don't know. This is quite a bizarre pairing to me.
I feel like this will be the first time in a while that Tarantino has written a movie and it was directed by someone else. I think it's only happened like maybe a handful of times.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm interested to see how it'll turn out. I do remember when they were talking about his last movie that he was going to write or direct. I know we mentioned this on the podcast before. There was a chance that it was going to be kind of a spin-off of the character of Cliff Booth. Whether or not this is the same thing, I don't know exactly. I'm just going to assume it is, because I felt like they were working pretty hard on, well, at least Tarantino was probably working hard on that idea. And I guarantee he had something that was at least filmable. But for it to not encompass his last film probably was something that was still worth telling, and he still wanted to just have it see the light of day. I don't know exactly how Tarantino and Fincher's relationship works. I've never really heard them mention each other. So if they're friends or something, then that's great. And if they're not friends, that would actually be even more interesting.
Co-workers types.
Yeah, so I'm kind of wondering, did Tarantino kind of throw this script out towards the other directors, or was it a studio thing that saw the finished script and was like, you know what, let's kind of pitch this out. This is worth kind of making, That would
probably be my guess, is that he probably just pitched it to a bunch of studios and he was like, I don't want to direct it, but just see if we can find somebody who wants to direct it. Maybe would probably be my best guess for why this is kind of happening. And I think maybe Netflix saw, and they probably saw the potential in it, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. The Netflix original thing is kind of throwing me off for a loop, especially so like, is it just going to get dumped to streaming, or is it going to be like a theatrical release? That I'm also like not sure of too.
Yeah. I think with Tarantino, we can expect a theatrical release. At least if I had to bet money on, I would assume so. Whether or not it's like Glass Onion type situation where it was just a very limited release in theaters. I think we'll see. I could see them maybe trying to do the same thing. I remember when that happened, that was kind of like Netflix's first kind of test run of doing something like that. They did a short release. I think it was like a month before it dropped on streaming. And I think they got good numbers, at least if I was remembering correctly. I'm not too sure. But I guess we'll have to see. I mean, it's a strange pairing, but who knows? I don't want to discount it just yet. I mean, I like Fincher, but like Wallied, these styles they don't sound like oh my God, that's great, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. They don't marry the two and two together that well, but I don't know.
Which might be even a reason why it might end up turning out to be good. You know, there are some pairings out there where you're just like, wait, what? You know, in movies, music, and it just kind of throws you for a loop, and then it ends up really working. So
right.
Guess we'll have to see. All right. We are discussing a very, very interesting movie in a franchise.
Interesting's an understatement.
Yeah, it is out there. Okay. I just want to preference to everyone straight off the bat. I don't think this movie's good. You're not going to hear me defend this. You're not going to hear me say this is some secret masterpiece or anything like that. I don't like that in film culture now, that we kind of either it's amazing or it's just like
an underrated gem.
I don't like that. And I'm not trying to say that right now. What I am saying, though, is this is one of my guilty pleasure movies of it's really bad. I don't think it's good by any means. Yet for some reason, when I watch it, I'm just so entertained by what's going on. And I'm just like, I don't know why. I just can't help but like watch it and love it for what it is. All right. We're talking about Mission Impossible 2, directed by John Woo, came out in 2000.
MI2.
So it's been 25 years.
Jeez.
Yeah. It kind of shows you how much we've progressed. I think I said it on the last episode. This is kind of like the black sheep, ugly stepchild of the Mission Impossible franchise, you know? And it's so strange that it's 2, because you go back and you rewatch 1, it still holds up pretty good. You know, it feels like spy espionage action movie, you know? And then you get to 2, and whatever we were doing in the 2000s, I don't know what it was, but we kind of really over dramatized things. I don't know exactly if they interpreted this movie as like amping it up, you know, like, oh, we're going to turn the dial up to 10 now. This is going to be full on, just everything you loved from the last one, but better. But whatever it was, when they turned that knob up and wanted to ramp up everything, it feels very satirical. It feels very just like, what the hell? What am I watching at points? Like, there's so many moments in this movie where you're just like, I don't get it. Like some of the way that like one of the action scenes is filmed, it looks like a cologne commercial, or and there's like this music playing that out of nowhere just gets like these slow motion cameras. I don't know what they were thinking, but let's just get into it. Wallied, where are you at with the Mission Impossible franchise? How did you kind of come about it? And do you remember the first time watching Mission Impossible 2?
Yeah. So Mission Impossible, the series for me, it was a big thing for me in middle school. I was just like obsessed with this series when I was growing up. I really loved Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation and Fallout. Those were like the first 3 I watched. And it wasn't until after I saw Mission Impossible, the original. I think I remember watching this once and I just kind of thought it was forgettable. I don't remember being all that into it and everything. And it was just definitely felt like wasn't a big fan of like the over the top nature. Granted, I love over the top stuff, but this felt like too much for me. And there was a lot of moments where I was like, I felt kind of uncomfortable watching it the first time watching it. I was like, I don't know if I'm allowed to watch this. I don't want my parents coming and being like, what are you watching? So that was definitely my first experience with it. I'd only seen it once. I saw it, I think, like 7 or 8 or maybe like 9 or 10 years ago. So about like a decade ago. So rewatching it for this episode, it was like, yeah, I think I figured out why I only watched this once. But yeah, this is one that I definitely don't rewatch out of the Mission Impossible movies for sure.
So they're coming off the success of the first one. Obviously, it was a big hit, and little did we know, decades later, it kind of is like an action movie staple.
Yeah.
It is a defining moment in action movies. Obviously, we remember the vault scene where he's going all the way down to steal this knock list, and you have these lasers, and he can't touch the ground, he can't make noise. It's a really iconic moment. So I think they were going into this one figuring like, okay, how do we do it again? How do we amp things up? One interesting thing with the Mission Impossible franchise that I feel like is different from most other franchises. As of the last 3 movies, I'll discount those. Tom Cruise kind of stepped up into like this producer role, and in that he wanted each movie to have its own defining kind of feel, its own stamp. So he would look for different directors for each film. So the first, second, third, and fourth, and then fifth, they're all different directors,
Right. Yeah.
So they're all going to have their own feel. However, with this one, I think with them getting John Woo, who probably wasn't the best idea. It just feels very out of place with, I mean, obviously when you watch the rest of these movies, you can very much clearly tell that this second one is just so different from everything else,
And I wonder though with John Woo, granted, I'm the only other movie I've seen of his is Face Off, so I don't have the best experience with this director, but I wonder though if it's maybe like he's using his Hong Kong style of filmmaking and he's trying to translate it to the Mission Impossible, but obviously it just doesn't really work and it feels just kind of out of place when you're watching it, and it just feels like I can see why maybe that style would work in maybe like a Hong Kong film or like one of his more foreign films. But for Mission Impossible, it just feels very forced. It feels like it's trying to be super cool and sexy and way too over the top. And yeah, it just kind of falls flat on its face for me a lot of the time.
One of the perfect ways to describe this movie was I forget where I heard it online or whatever, is that they try to turn Ethan Hunt into James Bond. And that very much describes the feel of what's going on when you're watching it. It's like,
because it feels like that when you're watching it a lot of the time, because he's like that kind of trying to be like the seducer,
suave and all like, put together and everything. And I feel like in that they got away from what we love about the first one. And for me, the rest of them is the team aspect, Ethan Hunt doesn't necessarily have all the answers and he's not a one-man show. But in this movie, it very much feels that way, He's doing a lot of the stuff himself. At one point, I swear it's freaking God mode. Like he's flying off of motorcycles.
It's like the Matrix. I'm like, okay.
But I don't know why I love it. So bad. All right. You can totally tell the defining fingerprint in this movie with this opening. Like Tom Cruise is like climbing this mountain and everything, and this music starts playing, and he's got no rope or anything on. And there's a meta moment. Tom Cruise is climbing, and he slips, and he assumes the only way to like help himself like re-grasp his balance and everything is he like kind of catches this other rock forming like a Christ-like pose over the mountains. It's almost like Tom Cruise is dying for our sins.
He's dying for Mission Impossible.
And he just holds it there. And I swear, every time I watch it, I'm like, what the hell is this?
I thought Zack Snyder was on the nose about the religious symbolism.
And it just, I don't understand it, but I don't know why. I just laugh every time I see it. And it's just so over the top. And like the camera zooms in on his face. Granted, like everything's shot well in this opening.
Yeah,
but
of course.
It's not like high adrenaline, This isn't Tom Cruise on top of the Burj Khalifa, you know, this isn't Tom
Right,
Cruise
yeah.
on the side of a plane. This just feels very weird, you know, it
Yeah.
doesn't have that same kind of feeling. And then out of nowhere, this, he makes it to the top of the mountain, and then this helicopter like pulls up on him. How he doesn't hear it showing up, I don't know.
He's got earplugs, I guess.
And then it fires like this missile at him. And I'm like, is he about to die? I remember when I first watched this, I was like, what the hell? Like, is he's just getting attacked?
Yeah.
And this thing launches at him and hits the mountain. And I guess this capsule pops open. It looks like a missile.
Yeah.
And these sunglasses pop out. And he puts them on, and he's told the mission that he has to go on through these sunglasses.
Which it could be cool, but the way this
just-
film portrays it is so cheesy. It's so
stupid.
corny. And then he like takes the glasses off and they just start exploding. I'm like, oh my God.
It throws him at the camera.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
And then the intro pops in, the music, which is composed by Hans Zimmer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it's like,
I would never have guessed that watching this.
okay, so for me, the Mission Impossible theme is a pretty iconic theme in movies and TV and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just so, the moment you hear it, you just like, yes, like this is
You know what
great.
you're in for.
Exactly. However, Hans Zimmer's interpretation of this, I'm sorry, I know people love this, but it just is weird. It's like these guitars, and it's just,
it feels dated.
It's so
it
dated.
sounds super dated.
Yeah.
And then the thing with that intro sequence too is it goes on for like a long time. It drags. I was like, how much longer are we going to get to the intro sequence? And then the intro sequence goes on for like another 5 minutes. And I'm like, oh my God, like hurry up already.
yeah, it's just
And then
super over the top.
way that intro sequence was too is like, I did not like that intro sequence at all. I was like, yeah, this is very early 2000s, like editing and intro sequence. I did not like it.
One of the things that I've heard is that John Woo did not want to film this opening sequence practically. He's very scared of heights. And Tom Cruise is like, no, we need to do this practically. We need to go out on the mountain. We need to film this, you know?
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So kind of shows you that this Mission Impossible franchise is very much Tom
Cruise's thing.
you know, and he gets these directors to obviously work in like a partnership with him, you know, which
that's an interesting kind of relationship for sure.
Yeah. You don't really hear that a lot in movies like that. So yeah, that intro sequence just totally tells you what you're in for.
Yeah.
Like you can just, the moment that intro sequence is done, you're like, let me look it up when this movie was made. And then you'll see the 2000s and you'll be like, yep, that's why that looks like that. So then we get an introductory, actually before that, like to the villain of the movie, which was a very strange kind of opening. And actually, I kind of enjoyed it. However, I wish the movie kind of had more moments like this. Shows Tom Cruise, sets up the overall plot line. So the plot line of this movie is there is a virus that is being created in a lab called the Chimera virus. And basically it's COVID on steroids. It can end Earth as we know it. It is we'll just call it the singularity. It's what is going to end everything if it gets out. And this doctor injects himself with it to like harbor it out or something. But then there's also like a cure for it, which is just very interesting. However, I just feel like they didn't know how to write around it, because in that, I'm hearing like a virus and everything. I'm like, okay, that sounds kind of interesting.
Yeah,
you know,
that's kind of scary.
And especially now in like a post kind of COVID world that we went through, can also be very frightening. However, in this movie, I feel like the most they got to was writing it down on paper, and they just kind of left it at that.
Pretty much, yeah.
Now, in this intro sequence, Tom Cruise is set up to be talking with this doctor who has this virus, and they do a kind of bait and switch. Takes off his mask and everything. They hijack the plane, and before you know it, it's this villain. It is Doug Ray Scott, and he plays Sean, my least favorite Mission Impossible villain. I swear he is so over the top. He's like this weird guy. The moment he takes his mask off and he like has this stupid face on him, I'm just like, all right, I already hate this guy. But fun fact with him, he was originally cast to play Wolverine in X-Men.
Oh,
and
wow.
They had to recast him because he was already scheduled to shoot this movie.
So essentially, we can thank this movie for Hugh Jackman.
So that Christ-like pose we saw earlier of Tom Cruise dying for our sins is actually true for the Marvel fans out there, because he kind of saved us, and he gave us one of the greatest comic book portrayals of all time, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
Okay, well, every cloud has a silver lining, right?
So, yeah.
Okay.
Fun fact out there, this was supposed to be our Wolverine that we were going to have in the X-Men franchise.
I do not like this villain at all.
I hate him.
He to me is so bland. He's so boring.
Yeah.
He's just kind of like, I want to be greedy and everything. And especially when you hear his motivation at the end, that he just wants stocks from the company. I'm like,
so
really?
dumb.
Come on. Like, wouldn't he want like world domination? Wouldn't he want to maybe like take over a country or take over the world?
Virus,
you know, like a deadly virus that can take over like the entire world, and you just want stocks? Really? Like, come on.
So past this intro sequence, they hijack this plane. It's kind of a cool action sequence a little bit, but again,
it's a little too short though.
It is, and the way it plays out just is like,
it was really funny.
It's funny, and then it just throws you for like a loop. You're just like, wait, what the hell? Like, so I'll admit they kind of got me on the bait and switch. However, it doesn't really set up the villain in the best way. You know, I feel like a lot of the other movies do such a better job of portraying their villain, making him menacing. This intro, like, I didn't think this guy was menacing. He literally just fights an old guy while the rest of his workers hijack his plane. And he just, I don't know. It's just like, I don't like when villains, especially in like these types of movies, when they
just have all the minions do their own work, basically.
And then also they feel so similar to the lead, you know?
Yeah.
I hate it when it's just like the same as the lead, but just in a different way, you know?
He's just a different little filter, basically.
I like drastic contrasts, you know? I like it when the villain is just so different from the hero. I guess that's my problem with most of that. But they set up this movie. We know about this virus and everything. Now, right from the jump, you can kind of expect that they would want to just jump right into it. But for some reason they don't. This movie takes forever to get rolling. Tom Cruise has to go meet up with Anthony Hopkins, who's in this movie for like 5-10 minutes.
I was shocked he was in this. I was like, how dare you waste Anthony Hopkins?
Fun fact, when the movie's first trailer came out, they edited around this to make it look like Anthony Hopkins was like in the whole movie. They used his dialogue as like a voiceover. They used shots of him multiple times in the trailers. And when this movie came out, people were like, he's not even in the movie.
I completely forgot he was in it, and then he showed up in like the last 5 minutes. I was like, oh yeah, you were a character in this.
Yeah. Granted, this movie like has an interesting premise, but once you get past these kind of two intro sequences, it just grinds to like a halt.
It just drags.
And we're introduced to this woman named Naya, and she's just not really that interesting. You know, she feels very 2000s dated type of character.
Femme fatale type.
And it just doesn't,
doesn't work.
And their relationship doesn't work either.
It feels very forced. It feels like uncomfortable at points, especially in the beginning where they have this whole scene in like the bathtub and everything, and there's this like overhead shot on like her boobs, and I'm like, what am I watching? Why is this here? Why would you use that shot?
Drastic change from the first one. Like the first one, right away you're put into the espionage, you're put into the spy aspects. This movie doesn't really have any of those aspects, at least not to the same degree as in the first one. And then we get to one of my again laugh out loud moments. There's this car chase Naya and Ethan are like, Ethan's trying to recruit her. Basically, he's been told he has to recruit her, but she's like a thief, so she's not really going to go with him. So he's trying to basically chase her down.
He's like stalking her.
So they get in this high speed car chase on like the edge of this mountain cliff area, which I'll give it. Like, it's shot pretty interesting. Cool. It's cool. Like the dynamic of them, you know, exchanging the lead and everything. Yeah,
it's fun little banter.
Spinning. And
then the way it ends, it's like
out of nowhere. I swear, I'd laugh every time I see this. There's like this part where they're basically, it just slows down. It's like this weird slow-mo comes in, and then this weird music, like trance-like kind of vocals.
Oh my God, it was awful.
And it just the camera cuts to like these close-up shots of them like spinning, but also like looking at each other, and their hair's flying everywhere. This is what I'm talking about when it looks like a perfume commercial.
It's so like, cringe. The heck? It's like so out of place. I'm like, what am I watching? Why is this? Why would you put the slow-mo right there?
It's random. And she's about to like die. But Ethan ends up using his car to like save her, and then he like jumps out.
It's like something out of Fast and Furious,
and grabs her off. It really is. Grabs her off the edge of the cliff, pulls her in the car, and out of nowhere they fall in like the perfect spot that they're like laying down. And
I thought they were about to have sex.
Yeah,
honestly.
Now they just turn on the sexy mode or whatever, and out of nowhere it's just like, wait, what? So where you guys are still like on the edge.
You're about to die.
You're about to die. Cars could come down the road, and out of nowhere, just this romance just kind of like kicks off.
And then the way it transitions too is so funny.
Oh my God.
It just cuts to them in bed, and you're just like, it's so awkward.
And this is how like out of place this is. So past this point, and even in the movie before, Ethan cares about his team. You know, that's one of my favorite things throughout these movies is Ethan has a respect and a almost love for his team.
Yeah,
you know?
like with Luther, with Benji.
He puts his own life on the line for them multiple times, you know, and they help him get the job done. And there's a respect there. Now with this, it's like he's recruited to put her on his team, and I guess his solution is to like sleep with her,
which is really creepy and weird.
Come on.
I guess for me too, my biggest issue with the romance is I just don't feel the chemistry at all. And I think something that could have been a lot better is rather than have them fall in love, is have it maybe be like a teacher-student type of mentorship. I think that could have made for a more interesting dynamic, and it could have made the femme fatale character a lot more interesting to me rather than just have her be the sexy, you know, neo-noir type of spy character basically. So I would just say I feel like one thing that could have been improved a lot better in my opinion, especially because it's like you said, they are a team, you know, and if they could work together as a team, that would have been a lot cooler rather than having them put this forced romantic relationship that doesn't really go anywhere, honestly.
Not at all. So. And then we kind of get to another plot point of the movie. Naya has to infiltrate Sean now. She was recruited to basically find out more information about this virus and everything, get close to him so she could find out all the secrets and everything. And then we get this, such a weird main plot line for this movie. There's now a love triangle between Naya, Sean, and Ethan.
Like if I already didn't like the romance already.
Why are we, see, that's my thing. Like the villain's too close to Ethan that it's like now I guess Naya and Sean have like this past that we don't know about, and then they get romantically involved, and it's just like, what? It's Mission Impossible, right? What, like, where's the action? Like, I don't care about this love triangle. Like, and for me as a kid, I was just so
bored. I was just really boring,
and it eats up the runtime. Like this,
it takes up so much of the middle portion of the film.
bad, and it's just like
yeah,
they do like these fake out sequences. Like Sean has the face of Ethan on at one point.
Oh yeah,
'cause he doesn't trust her, and it's just like I don't care. Like I really just don't care about this. There's some aspects that like, for instance, they bring Luther back, which obviously
he was easily my favorite part about the film.
He's a big standout from the first film. So
he's really funny too. He gives a lot of really funny clips.
He does. You like their dynamic, like Ethan and Luther. I
love Vic Grimes. Yeah,
he's
awesome.
They just work together so well. However, in this movie, with the whole romantic triangle, Luther feels almost kind of sidelined. Same with that other team member who I don't even remember.
Oh yeah,
he's basically like a budget Benji.
I was gonna say he's like proto Benji.
Proto Benji. So like he's kind of forgettable. Like he's there as like the tech guy or whatever.
I thought the scene that was funny with him was when he was like closing the door on him or whatever. On the guy. I thought that was pretty funny, but other than that, I don't really remember what else he did.
Yeah. So this whole kind of romantic triangle eats up pretty much like this kind of whole second act.
Yeah.
You know? Everything else is kind of sidelined. You don't really get the best aspects of Mission Impossible franchise
at all.
It feels like a weird James Bond
fan fiction.
It really does. Like it just feels so dated and just feels out of place and weird. And then we kind of ramp up into the final act, which the action definitely kicks in.
Yeah, I will say I do like the action. However, it's just the same problem I have with most of the movie is that it takes it a tad step too much to too over the top. Because like for me, I love the motorcycle sequence, you know, and that whole chase sequence was really awesome. And then they like start like having this like jousting duel with the motorcycles, and they start to like do like pop like wheelies and everything, and they're like just like.
So I don't get it. Like this whole sequence, like you don't see really Sean kind of do any action. At most, he's just been pointing a gun and everything. Yeah. And I swear when this final fight and everything kind of takes place, Sean just out of nowhere is like this perfect match to Ethan Hunt. And it just doesn't really feel like it's earned. And at no point was I ever anticipating their kind of crossover, you know?
Yeah.
And that's my thing with the other Mission Impossible movies is you want to see the lead and the villain go head to head.
Yeah.
You know? And when it happens, it's
so
great.
satisfying.
And it's a payoff, and you've been anticipating it. In this movie, the fact with this whole love triangle and everything, I didn't really care. I wasn't anticipating this fight.
And then you have the whole action sequence at the lab and everything, and you think, oh, okay, the movie's going to come to an end.
Yeah.
But then it goes on for like another 40 minutes.
Yep.
And it's just like, I was at that point, I was just like already just waiting for it to be done.
So they got to basically the whole climax. Naya injects herself with this chimera virus, and she has basically 24 hours to get the cure. Otherwise, she's going to die.
Exactly.
Which ramps up the stakes, and I was like, all right, finally, like now I have something that I can like root for, you know? So it puts a time limit on Ethan. Has to get this done, and that's where the movie definitely ramps up, and you are excited. The whole lab fighting sequence is kind of interesting, but again, it just it wasn't quite there yet. And then we get to the final bike, right before the bike scene. Some of my favorite parts of this movie. Ethan's infiltrating Sean's lab and everything because Sean has the cure on him.
Right.
And then that's when we find out more about Sean wanting stocks and everything.
Which was so ridiculous. I just like I didn't even care about the villain at that point, but that made me just hate the villain even more.
Yeah. And then we have Ethan infiltrating and they throw some subtle hints at you that you just keep an eye out for some doves that you see in the scene.
It's very subtle.
Ethan's infiltrating kind of Metal Gear Solid stealth sequence, you know, infiltrating and going through, which is pretty entertaining. And we get a nice... at least for me, a nice bait and switch. They kind of done this already like 3 times in the movies, but I'll be honest, they still kind of got me. Ethan infiltrates, and they portray it as he got captured. Right. Yeah. And he's brought in before Sean, and the the guy who captured him is like, you know, basically he has him handcuffed, duct taped or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the guy, Sean, starts like shooting him, basically torturing him. And the whole time Ethan's not like screaming out in pain or anything. And Sean's like, stop mumbling. And the guy was like, I think I broke his jaw. Like, I don't think he can talk. And then it cuts to this like over the top dramatic. I don't know why they just draw out this reveal for like it feels like 5 minutes.
It just goes on for so
like,
long.
Ethan's just laying there in pain, like screaming. And then out of nowhere, Sean just grabs the gun, starts shooting him, and this opera music kind of comes in over the top, and it's cutting back between him and Sean.
Laughing.
And it's just like this whole played out sequence of like, you just saw Ethan Hunt die. And I'll admit, as a kid, I was like, holy crap, he's dead. And it's so funny to rewatch this part. Like if you just have 5 minutes, look this up on YouTube. Like you'll just be laughing. And Sean is just like, he looks down at his hand. And because earlier in the movie, he clips one of his henchman's fingers, I guess, for some stupid reason.
Oh, yeah.
And he looks down at his hand, and you see the bandages on his hand. And Sean's like, wait a minute, what? So then he starts going up to him. And again, you're like 3-4 minutes into this sequence at this point, and it's still just drawing it out. It's still just playing it out.
It's like, okay, we get it. Like, come on.
And he's like slowly walking up towards him, and he takes off. He reaches for his face and takes it off.
Yeah.
And we see the henchman is actually there, duct tape around his mouth, and that's why he couldn't talk. And Sean just lets out like this over the top scream.
No.
And then it cuts to the henchman running down the hallway with the cure, and it is Ethan Hunt, and he takes off the mask. And then this Hans Zimmer heavy guitar Mission Impossible theme kicks off.
I do not like that version of the theme.
I just love this so much. I don't know why. It's just so funny to me, and it's so entertaining. And we kick into this motorcycle sequence, and man, it is like Wallied said, it is so over the top. They're doing wheelies. At one point, Ethan Hunt jumps off the side of it and is literally sliding his feet on the ground, going like 60, and he's like hiding behind it as like bullet cover while he's getting shot at, and he's just firing aimlessly at Sean chasing on another bike. Sean just totally throws off one of his henchmen to take his bike and go after him. And they're popping wheelies, and they get to, while he said they get to this jousting, like they're just facing off. They see each other and they just go full fledged.
It's ridiculous.
At each other, going high speed, doing wheelies. It's so funny. Then out of nowhere, like I don't expect how this is gonna play out. I'm like, are they gonna literally just ram into each other? Like, I didn't know what was gonna happen. Then out of nowhere, right before they collide, they jump midair. They're going like 60, and their bodies just fly into each other. And out of nowhere, it's edited to them like falling off of this cliff. And when you rewatch it, you're like, wait, where'd this cliff come from? And they just totally like, they fall like 5 stories. That what it looks like. They fall for a long time, and they land on this sand. And they just immediately get up and they start fighting. They're doing kung fu. They're doing flying kicks.
It was like Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this?
So crazy. And it just goes for all these over the top parts. There is one kind of stunt in this movie that does kind of blow my mind. This was probably like a precursor to what we see now in the Mission Impossible movies, where Tom Cruise does these kind of crazy stunts. They do this kind of up close shot with this knife. And in the sequence, when they were shooting it, they designed like this pulley system that has basically stops the knife at like a certain point. So the knife is actually getting really close to Tom Cruise's eye. and this is all practical, but they had this system to like stop it. But I remember they were like, if this thing doesn't stop it at the right point, he could lose his eye. And it goes for this close-up shot of the knife almost hitting him. It looks great, and it really is like, holy shit.
That's scary.
Yeah, so it's terrifying. And then as cool as that is, they just go super over the top. Like,
takes it too far.
The choreography in this fight just gets kind of crazy. Like, he obviously does like this flying kick and everything.
Oh, yeah.
But at one point, I forget what he does. He like grabs like his head or something and like spin. I don't know. It's just, when you watch it, you're just gonna be like, this fight choreography just doesn't really make it believable, you know? Super over the top, super crazy.
Which I wouldn't mind if it was like a comedy film or it was like, you know, not taking itself too seriously. But the fact it takes itself so seriously and it's a little bit more dramatic, I think just kind of makes it worse rather than great for me.
Ethan Hunt kind of throughout this fight becomes victorious in it and takes the cure. Naya's there. She gets delivered on a helicopter from Luther and everything. They find her pretty much about to kill herself. I was like, holy shit.
It's pretty dark. I was like, God dang. Where did this come from?
And they fly her back and Ethan gives her the cure. And they kind of set up that they're going to be like this romance that I guess would continue in the other movies. But I am really glad that they kind of just dropped it.
Yeah.
They didn't really push it forward because, again, the way in which it plays out, this was supposed to be someone that's working with Ethan. Why would he
be romantically involved with her?
Exactly.
Just feels forced and unprofessional on Ethan Hunt's end.
And on paper, it's like, well, he can't recruit her, so he's going to have sex with her? Like, that's just weird.
Yeah, abusing his power, am I right?
But yeah, that's the movie. I definitely skipped over a lot of parts, but trust me, a lot of this movie
is really boring.
So boring.
There's a whole thing with Brendan Gleeson as like the pharmaceutical guy. There's like a whole thing where he goes to like the hospital.
He is in this movie. I forgot. And the villain's just so stupid. Like, he's just not
one of
menacing.
The dumbest villains I've seen.
It's just such a low point for the franchise.
I'm glad we're past this.
Yeah. And this franchise really does have some great villain portrayals and everything. So
easily.
This guy really stands out. But for me, this movie is just a guilty pleasure movie in every sense of the word. I don't know what it is. Whenever I watch this, I'm just entertained by the stupid, over-the-top aspects. And you really just can't attribute this to anything more than this was made in the 2000s.
It's of its time.
It's very dated.
You can give it that.
I'm very glad we matured past this. I'm very glad this type of filmmaking doesn't really happen anymore. But it has some very entertaining moments. It has laugh out loud moments. Every time I watch this, I'm like dying laughing. And then when the action kicks in, it kicks in and it's entertaining. But it can go very much too far. And it
unfortunately,
can very much pull you out of it to where you're like, what were they thinking?
It doesn't really work for me. But
so I guess rating wise, I'm probably somewhere like a 3 or 4 out of 10.
Okay.
I don't like this movie. You're not going to hear me defend this movie in any way. But this is one of my guilty pleasure movies that, when I put it on, like, I kind of enjoy it.
Okay, cool. No complaints there, man.
So
that's cool.
If you guys are ever bored and you want to see a timepiece from an era in which we were still kind of finding out where we were going to be with action movies over the next couple of years, you're going to see it in this movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Very strange. Wallied, what were your closing thoughts? What are you thinking with this movie?
Not a big fan of this one. This is easily my least favorite of the Mission Impossible movies. I did not like this. Like, I love over the top filmmaking. It's one of my favorite styles of filmmaking, but unfortunately he just takes it way too far and it just overdoes it. I really don't like the romance at all in this film. It feels very uncomfortable and I don't really enjoy watching it. I don't think their chemistry is all that great. It didn't work for me. I think some of the action is okay. But granted, I think for comparing to the other Mission Impossible films, I think it's done way better in Rogue Nation and Ghost Protocol, especially, which is my personal favorite. I will say, though, I do love Ving Rhames. I think he does a really good job as Luther. Obviously, I love seeing him in these movies. He's easily one of my favorite parts about the Mission Impossible film. So I
like the line where he gets shot and he's all, that punk poked a hole in my Versace.
I know. It was like a funny little running gag because he did it in the beginning too. It was all, I stepped in poop on my Gucci shoes. So I liked that. I thought that was funny. I thought some of the colors popped out. It did have some cool bright colors. Yeah. But yeah, other than that, I don't have any desire to watch this ever again. It's kind of boring to me. But I will say it does have some entertaining bad moments for sure. So I wasn't bored for like half of it, you could say.
I think this movie was very necessary to show what it looks like when, like I said, the dial was turned up. Yeah. And I feel like past this, they were like, all right, that was a little too far. Let's bring it back.
Let's restrain it back.
Bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's cool. I don't know. It is cool. I don't regret watching it. It is cool to kind of see like somebody's different perspective and interpretation of the Mission Impossible films. However, I just think execution wise, it just didn't really work for me all that much. Score wise, I'm probably at like 4. I'd give it a 4 out of 10.
Nice.
Yeah. There's some aspects I think that I do like. There are some concepts I think they're kind of cool, and some of the action is pretty cool. But again, it's just a lot of it falls flat on its face, unfortunately.
We'll definitely, I know for sure I'll be recommending more guilty pleasure movies that I have in the future. I mean, we all have them. There's just those movies that they get tanked in ratings. They're not remembered that fondly of, yet for some reason you're just entertained by them. You know, like we all have those movies. I have a handful of them that I enjoy.
Same.
And you know, when you rewatch them as you're older, you're like, sometimes they still kind of just stick with you in a way. And yes, my taste in movies has matured. I love a lot more art-driven, creative movies, but man, there's just something about turning on this movie, or you see it on TV randomly, and you're just like, I gotta watch it.
I gotta watch it.
But yeah, that's Mission Impossible 2. We're coming up on the, I think the franchise is going to be ending here this year. So
yeah, which was kind of an odd coincidence. You recommended this. So it's like, perfect timing.
It's going to be interesting. So Wallied, what are we recommending next time?
Yeah, so I was going through a bunch of recommendations because I love the 10 out of 10 stuff. I love my favorite movies, but I wanted to change it up for the next few recommendations. And I thought it'd be kind of interesting to take a trip down memory lane for me personally and talk about some of the films that I grew up watching and that either I like or I'm like, that's not really good, but I have like nostalgic feelings for. And so the one I'm going to pick first is from a series that I've been obsessed with recently and that I actually was even more obsessed with when I was younger. And unfortunately, this was like the last film from this series that we've gotten so far. But I think it's kind of a fascinating, bit of a mess, sort of, but I do think there's a lot to kind of discuss with it. There's aspects of it I really like. So we're going to talk about Muppets Most Wanted.
Oh, nice.
From 2014. Unfortunately, it was the last Muppets film we got. One of the black sheeps of like the Muppet films for sure. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot that I was kind of surprised like works on like a rewatch and everything. Nice. And yeah, I'd be kind of interested to like just get into this film and everything like that. So
yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about for next episode. So if you guys haven't seen Muppets Most Wanted and want to check it out before the next episode comes out and everything.
All right, guys, that'll be it for us. Thank you for joining us on this episode. And we're going to be having some more videos coming out here pretty soon. So keep your eyes open for them. Let us know what you guys think. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one.
Good day and good night, mates.